Let's create a pivotal impact. Friends in the industry. So before we get started in today's conversation, I wanted to hit something real quick when considering how you can positively impact your team in your place of work. So for starters, I believe it's extremely important to constantly be in contact with your team and do pulse checks on how people are doing. When you pay attention, you can learn who people really are, but also you can read into their consistencies pretty quickly. By constantly talking and communicating with them, you can pick up what they care about, but also what they don't necessarily care about, or even what pain points they may have. When you put forth the effort to build these type of working relationships, especially in a leadership role, you have the opportunity to lean on each other's strengths when navigating through various challenges and transitions. So I'm Josh Hannerbury, your host here at the Truck Focus podcast, and our mission here is simple. We're connecting transportation industry leaders to the industry to help create a pivotal change. So I also believe it's extremely important to be curious as a leader, which leads us to today's interviews. I'm super excited to speak with Francesca Sebastian, CEO of Acumen Clinic, as we dive into how she's leading a very successful team by being a curious leader, but also how she communicates in such a way that builds trust and ultimately leads to collaboration and growth amongst her team. So I encourage you to learn more about Acumen Clinic by visiting their website or checking them out on Instagram. I've included the links directly in the show notes. So before we get started in our interview today, I just wanted to say thank you. So thank you to those that this is the first time that you're checking out the Truck Focus podcast community, taking the time to listen, but also to our dedicated community. I want to continue to say thank you so much for showing up, taking the time to listen, but also taking the time to apply the advice shared throughout all of our interviews and creating a pivotal impact in your own interactions each day. So throughout the conversation today, I ask that you consider, okay, what can I do so that way I can be a more attentive leader? Maybe I need to become more curious. Maybe I need to ask more questions. But what can you do starting today that you can start applying in your own places, if it's business practice, if it's within your own business, in your workplace, whatever it is. And then at the end of this episode, I ask that you share it out. So if it's sharing this episode and saying, hey, this really helped me, or contacting myself directly, of course, all my contact details are in the show notes, but let me know. So I look forward to the impact today's conversation is going to have. Let's get to it. All right, Francesca, super excited for today. And I really want to welcome you to the Truck Focus podcast. I'm really excited as we talk about who you are, obviously, as a person, more so as a leader, but also just what life is like, obviously, being in the health space, dealing with a huge variety of different types of professionals that are into some pretty dangerous sports, which I thought was super fascinating. And just, yeah, I'm excited also to see your passion. And that was one of the things that really stood out when we first started connecting was you really care. And I think leaders that really care can really help a lot of people, and they can help their people be successful, which ultimately leads obviously to that domino effect. And I'm just super grateful that we're on the podcast together. So welcome.
Thank you, Josh. I'm super excited too.
Yeah, I'm glad. Otherwise, as I've said before, I would just hit, okay, that's the episode. Have a wonderful day. So the fact that you're mutually excited, that's good.
Yeah, we're good.
That's good. So to start us off, why don't you kind of give us a recap of who you are and what your journey is like? Acumen Clinic.
Yeah, so I'm Francesca. I'm originally from Quebec. I moved here like 15 years ago. So Edmonton and Alberta is definitely home for me. But when I moved here, I was studying business, more specifically health promotion. So when my first job in healthcare was with a group of family physicians in the Francophone community, actually, which was very fitting for me being Francophone. But I did some really cool projects with them to better the delivery of healthcare to patients. And those types of projects, I swear they were awesome. And I wanted to do this in all clinics in Alberta. So very ambitious of me. I went to work with the primary care network, trying to do this with different clinics and different physicians. And I had lots of roadblocks in front of me, so the Alberta healthcare and just the government in general and healthcare is a big beast. And even if you have ideas and you want to make changes, there's a long wait for a change. You have to talk to many different people. So not exactly what I was looking for in terms of, I just felt that I wanted to give more and I didn't feel fulfilled in the roles that I was having, right? And one day I'm on LinkedIn and I see this orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Jesse Slade-Shans, who's the founder of Acumen. He posted that he needed help to manage his orthopedic surgery clinic. And my immediate reaction was like, well, can't do private in Alberta. Like, what is this? There's no way. So I meet with him for coffee, and it was very clear that we had the same passion and the values to better the healthcare. And to put this in perspective, so his story is very important for the story of Acumen. So he's an orthopedic surgeon. He had a very successful public practice in Ajax, Ontario. And he moved to Alberta in Edmonton for family reasons. And when he got to Edmonton, he reached out to the Faculty of Medicine. He reached out to Alberta Health, offering his service as a shoulder, elbow, and knee surgeon. And they didn't have any openings, which is mind-blowing, especially for me trying to better the referral system and help people that are waiting 2 years to get an orthopedic surgery. So he has his MBA, so he's also a little bit of an entrepreneur at heart. And so he opted out completely of Alberta Health Services formally. And I think there's one surgeon that did this before him, and he retired already. So Jesse is definitely the only one that is opted out as an orthopedic surgeon today in Alberta. So we just decided to start this practice together. We made some good connection with surgical facilities. And now today we have clinics in Edmonton, Calgary, and Kelowna. We have, so we see patients for surgical consultation. We designed our own type of consultation, how we want to do it, the length of them. And we also have rehabilitation and reconditioning departments, as well as a performance center in both cities in Alberta. So
Powerful. The, what is it? You've gone somewhere no one's gone before kind of thing. The bushwhack, where you're literally bootstrapped to massive growth, obviously in your space, I think is incredible. And so when you mentioned roadblocks, something that I see often with not just leadership, but with people in general is they get to a certain point, then they hit a roadblock, then they start to really say, I don't know, and they question and they sometimes procrastinate through process and perfectionism, all that stuff. But I'll ask collectively. So how did you guys navigate through the roadblocks, knowing that there's red tape here and there's boundaries here? How did you just, stay steadfast to the mission?
Well, I think so. And when I talked about roadblocks in my previous jobs, they were different, right? I didn't have a lot of say. I think in this, it's like we were starting from scratch. Like we were designing our own practice, like the own business, like the way that we wanted to do this healthcare system. Honestly, we were starting a completely different healthcare system at this point. And yeah, you can call it private or public, doesn't matter. At first I was like, oh, this is a private healthcare system. But today I understand that like, it's not really comparable. It's not like our consultation is the same as what is happening in the public. So we were able to design what we wanted and what we needed for our patients. And we collaborated with different people that were like-minded. So again, finding surgical center and non-hospital facilities that would welcome our patients the way we did it. It's not perfect, still not is, but slowly we get there.
Yes. No, I think that's encouraging because I love strategic partnerships and I love aligning myself with people that are really like headed in the same direction. And that's a big mountain to climb. Okay, let's get to it. So that's good to know because again, being in transportation, being involved with multiple different types of people, there's a lot of entrepreneurs and there's a lot of people that just say, I don't like these boundaries. I'm going to start my own. So again, seeing that you're doing that in your space. And as we get through our conversation, people will realize, wow, you help a lot of different type of people. I think it's really powerful and it's really encouraging too, especially in today's day and age where pandemic challenges aside, entrepreneurship is it's a thing, but at the same time, as you know, it's a boatload of work. So I appreciate you getting there. That's awesome.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So before we go too much further, Acumen Clinic, what's the best place people can go? Maybe they wanted research, maybe they wanted to, connect with some of your team. What's the best place for that?
Yeah. So if you want an overview, because we have different departments, if you want an overview, the website is great for this. So you can really browse the different departments that we have, depending on where you are in your journey to, better maybe an injury, or you're recovering still, or you want to get, I don't know, more in shape with a different program that you have, or you're still navigating the system you're in right now, and that's okay too, or you're just starting, you want an evaluation. So that's where you can really get like all of what we do on the website at acumenclinic.com. On Instagram, honestly, at Acumen Performance, that's where you can really see like the day-to-day that happens in the gym. So all the practitioners that are in the gym, they post what they see daily. So that's where you can really check in on what's going on. And then our admin team is not like your typical admin team. They are experts at this healthcare system that we've created. So sometimes if you need to know for your own care or for a loved one, what's your next step or where you should be starting, and you want to just talk with someone, calling Acumen Clinic and chatting with them and getting a bit more history on your specific problem, injury, or pain, or where you're at, it's great, because then we can really chat and see where you're at and, connect you with the right person. That's important. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And it's nice to know that you've created the environment where the right people can actually help, which I think is it's a really a compliment to your leadership style. So I think that's important. And yeah, links, just so our listeners know, are obviously in the show notes, because that way it's super easy for them to learn more and find out. So so I wanted to touch on there. So something that really stood out, I'll start this way. Something that really stood out when we first connected was we had a really good conversation. And I literally, when we got off the Zoom, I'm like, man, you love serving people. I can tell you really care about people. You're really passionate about allowing others to think outside the box, to collaborate. And I think that takes a really humble approach, because I think we can all relate. There's bosses and leaders out there that are, no, it's not my idea. It's not a good idea, where I kept hearing the opposite. And the fact that you can speak so confidently of your trainers, of your admin team, of obviously your co-founder, like all of those things, I think it's really powerful. So when you're kind of reflecting on yourself, have you always been someone that really likes to collaborate, really likes to serve, really likes to uplift others? Or is that kind of trained throughout your just time and experience?
That's a really good question. Well, when we started, I think it's both. So when we started, kid you not, our model was to rent rooms in different medical clinics. So I remember very specifically that I would be sitting in the waiting room with patients if they came early for their appointment, just to kind of learn about them and what they needed and make sure that they were okay, or so that I could actually better help them at the end of the day, really, because I knew them a bit more. But I kid you not, this team here is the best team. And you say I'm passionate, but they're as passionate or more than I am passionate, because they're really expert in what they're doing. And they go above and beyond for patients and clients. Like, I see it every day. I'm passionate because I see it. They work hard. They'll customize a program. I've seen, Mike and Leanne, athletic therapists and strength conditioning specialists together, talking to a farmer and telling them to, on Zoom, telling them, take that hay bale and take this piece of metal and we'll make a training for you, specifically for you in that moment, because that's what you need. Or I've seen them collaborate together on a case because they're unsure what's the next step, and they need to discuss it together as a team to make sure that the patient has the best outcome, because that's the right thing to do. And that's what we do. So I'm really passionate. It feels really good and really rewarding to know that we're helping people, but it is insane to see it every day happen from the expert here with our patients and clients that come on this door. And that's what's good. And you cannot not be passionate when you have a team that is as passionate about what we do at Acumen and that want the same things. That vision that Dr. Jesse created, we all really believe in it. And that's what we want. That's our goal together.
Powerful. That's powerful. Yeah, I love that when it's together. So there's a couple of things that you said there that I wanted to hit on. So first, when we're talking, obviously, patients and clients, can you kind of give an overview of who's welcome? Because obviously there's a lot of different types of people. We're predominantly speaking in transportation, but that means that you have farmers, you have obviously truck drivers, you have landscapers, you have roofers, you have so many different types of people. So from a client perspective and a patient perspective, who could really benefit? Just, yeah, again, saying, hey, I'm signing up. Let's do this. Like, who would benefit?
Yeah, well, you know what? Our latest campaign was actually Acumen is for everybody. That's why I say patient and client, because, okay, it started again with Dr. Jesse Slade-Shans and his surgical practice. And so I'm going to go back a bit, but, we started like that and we saw patients for surgery. So, he'd give his cell phone, he still does give his cell phone number so that patient can call him directly after surgery, right? So if there's anything that happens, he would call the physio to make sure they're okay and they have the proper, or proper surgeon recommendation or know what happened during the surgery for them to have a better outcome for rehabilitation. If they're not surgical, he would still, maybe connect them to a physiotherapist in the community. So Leanne, our athletic therapist, she's our reconditioning director today. At first, we hired her, not quite as an athletic therapist, obviously she has the knowledge, but more as a physician extender. So she would help Jesse do those things that's all around caring for that patient. And I remember one day when we were still renting a room in a medical clinic, she's scribing, taking notes with Dr. Jesse about, the consultation. And there's the medical clinic. So it's a room full of people waiting. There's nurses going all around the hallway, physicians. And, there's Leanne showing an exercise in the middle of all this to this patient that just came out. And I went to Leanne and I said, you need me to rent another room for you so that you can show exercise? Do we need to extend the consultation for 15 minutes so that you can show them what they need? And she looks at me and she says, I need a gym. And I was like, well, we're not going to get a gym. I mean, 2 years later, we do have a gym in 2 locations. But anyway, that's beside the point. In that specific moment, she knew that that's what she needed to do for the patient, right? So we were just the 3 of us. So we would travel from Edmonton to Calgary because that's where we had the 2 most market in Kelowna. And then she had these patients that just wanted to follow her, right? Where they wanted continuity of care. So surgical patient, not all of a sudden non-surgical patient following an athletic therapist for treatment or customized care, customized program. And so we hired people in both cities when she was getting too busy. We also have so at one point, they're not necessarily, let's say in their journey, they're past rehabilitation and they want to come and train with us, or they want a strength conditioning coach to really push them towards a specific goal that they have, like hiking or doing a specific sport. Then we have strength conditioning coach that work directly with the therapist. And they, so we have them in both locations as well, in Edmonton and Calgary and Alberta. So you can come in to have an evaluation for something that's non-surgical if you know it's not surgical. If you're not sure, that's when you talk to our expert at the front to make sure that we fit you with the right person. They also all have different personalities and experience. So it's better if you talk to us about your history and your lifestyle and what's going on. And then you obviously have the surgeon that will give you a surgical consultation. Then, so yes, on the performance center, we have athletes that come to work out with us. We have people that want to work out just on a weekly basis with us. You're welcome. And this gym is there for that. It's a one-on-one basis. So it's not like your walk-in gym or your membership, monthly membership gym. It's definitely a one-on-one targeted, customized approach with someone that wants to work on personal goals, whether your personal goals are, again, like playing a sport. We have a huge rodeo following. So they want care right away. And they want lots of care and specific care. So they know that working with athletes, surrounding themselves with like these experts is the right thing to do for their type of sports. And then lastly, we have our Dr. Don Dick. He's our orthopedic surgeon that will help you Make sure that you're fit for travel PD to hip and knee replacement. Those are not done privately in Alberta. You do have to leave the province for those. So we collaborate with different surgical facilities across Canada to make sure that you can get that as well. So yes, this is a lot of different things, but
yes,
we're there.
Yes, that's a ton of value. And it's nice to know that so your new slogan is Acumen is for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because again, I think it's okay to be niche, but when you have the ability to help a lot of different types of people, and again, there's a lot of different types of people, it's nice to see. But as I go right back to your passion, and those that are listening, hop on YouTube because watching Francesca's faces light up when you're talking about this, you go from here. It's like, yes, we need more of that. So I admire that when people are really happy in their space. I can tell you're really proud too. So it's really good to see. You also mentioned culture, and when you have people of excellence, they're professionals even of excellence, we all own our opinions, we all own how we think things should be. So how have you navigated successfully? Obviously there's a vision that the team has definitely bought into, which means that your clients are buying into because you have this following. But how can you talk about how that was developed? Like is it onboarding, like, hey, you're first hired on, here's a couple of weeks of like culture training, or how did you kind of find that perfect match per se? Because it sounds super good.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. We're a big family. I remember my first coffee with Jesse when he said, well, you're kind of interviewing me too. I think that's a big thing, and it's stuck as this culture because you just said it, right? What's the onboarding? Well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What's your job description? I've actually said this to the last person I hired. Can you make a job description for me? Like, I want to know exactly what you want to come in here into and do. And if it fits, right? It has to be a match because Acumen is it's such a different environment. It's such a different type of care that if you're not passionate about what we do and you don't have that vision, it's going to be really hard. These, again, when I said people will go above and beyond to find the right thing to do for a patient, for them to have the best outcome, that it's really it. I don't always have a manual. You have to kind of figure that out. I think also something that, and I've told this to my team, like, they all want a seat at the table. And I want them to have a seat at the table, really. And I know Dr. Jesse would say that right beside me because it's important. You're never going to regret. Sometimes you make very important business decision. You're never going to regret asking your colleagues about that decision. 2 weeks ago, I had the best discussion with a strength conditioning coach, Chris Sharkey, he's our manager in the performance center, about hiring an admin because, okay, maybe it's not his department, but he works every day with that admin. Maybe he has to say. So I think it's important to ask everybody's opinion on business decisions that we make. And I mean, it's good because I have more opinion, more suggestion. It's just clearer when I get to make my decision. It's maybe not going to help or be what everybody wants, but we always talk about change management. Oh, change management is so hard. We have to have a process for change management. How are we going to do this? It's going to be hard for this department. But if you make them part of that decision and part of the process, then they are also proud of it. I'm proud of it. They're going to be proud of it, and they're going to help me do that. And we all do it together. And then Leanne says that all the time. So that's definitely her quote. She says, nobody's going to be upset with you with over communicating. So talking to your team and really letting them know what's going on and what sometimes they don't know what I'm doing. And it's good. I'm also proud of what I do and they're proud of what they do. So I think just discussing together and making those decisions together is really important.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, when you're involved and you feel like you are part of the family, there's a different, I would say, level of service that you provide too, because you have confidence in why things are. It's not just I was told to do it this way. It's not like, you're right. You're not always going to get the decision or the outcome that you ultimately wished. But when you're involved in the entire process, the greater understanding just leads to greater results. And I think ultimately for your clients too, which I think is important.
No, I know. It's like you hire them, but really got to trust them. You could hire them because they are also really good at what they do and they have some great ideas.
Yeah, agreed. How, from a client's perspective, how have you noticed, I would say collectively as a team, when they're sharing feedback, is that feedback you're like, hey, it's a good idea, we could apply that? Or if someone's getting creative in the field and they're thinking about a new tool or a new best practice or whatever, how are you guys responding to that? And I'm assuming that's happened quite a bit, just again, through our
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, honestly, we change things like almost weekly here. but and you're right, like it's always kind of like it's patient focused, right? Patients always first. We constantly say that. Yeah, for sure. I always thought there would be like a specific type of people that would come and get this type of care, but and I mean there are little pockets sometimes, but really the people that want to be involved in their care, they find us, right? They are the one that, like, okay, farmers, we have a lot of farmers. They can't afford to wait 2 years for a specific injury that they sustain. So then they find us because they wanted to have it done right away. And then you have people that really want to be involved in how my care is going to be, when, just how. And then these people find us because they know they're going to be involved. They're going to be the one that choose. Like Dr. Jesse, yes, he'll say you're surgical, but he'll give you options. It's not like you're only surgical. It's like option number 1, option number 2, option number 3. Go home, think about it. Don't have to decide today, right? So no, we do listen to our patients quite a bit, and then we make those decisions afterwards. Like I think a few months ago, we had this mom, and she said, I can't even pick up my kid. It's my daughter's 1 year old and I'm going to wait 2 years and not pick her up. I need this shoulder surgery. And she said, I won't go to Hawaii. I got my family help me for this. And she's the one that wanted this. She put in the time, the research, to get the proper surgery. And like, she put in the work afterwards for her rehabilitation. And she was very successful with the operation. So
Powerful.
yeah.
Yeah, you said two things there. First, I want to go back to the 1, 2, 3 options, take it home. So I think again, this is no jab to healthcare by any means, but when you're pressured to make a decision, it's almost like that used car salesman approach where it's like, I don't want to buy right now. Let me think about it. And they're like, no, you got to tell me right now. So knowing here's the information, digest it, talk it with your family, like think on it, whatever, get back to us. I think that's a really kind way to help people make a really major decision. If it's surgery, if it's not surgery, and it's just rehab or however you're going to navigate that, I think that's really powerful. And when you think about so as humans, we have the ability, obviously, to research and make a decision. But when you can have a family get behind the decision and say, hey, this will help you, so you can actually respond. If it's the mother and her 1 year old, like I couldn't imagine my wife not being able to pick up our little guy at that point. Or if it's, I'm a farmer, I can't wait 2 years because like season is literally 3 months away. Like, what can I do now? I think you're helping so many different people make those decisions. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, they get to choose when they want to do this. Like, it's if their season is, I mean, April is really busy for farmers for surgery. I mean, they booked it at that time so they could be ready for the fall. So they get to choose that. It's very important for us. Yeah.
Agreed. So how have you managed the different provinces and multiple locations from a growth, but also a culture standpoint? Is it Zoom calls often? Is it you're traveling all the time to kind of just make sure people stay in touch? Or how are you, I guess, navigating that process?
Yeah, that was the hard part. I mean, Dr. Jesse does see patients in all 3 cities. We have therapists and strength conditioning specialists in all cities so that they don't have to travel all the time, because I mean, Leanne definitely did travel at the beginning quite a bit. To keep that culture, yeah, again, over communicating. I think we work a lot together on different projects, and we do have a lot of projects. Like, we just started this minor injury clinic here in Edmonton, and it's picking up quite a bit. And we're like, okay, well, let's try it in Calgary, right? Are you okay to try it? But there is a different market. There's different people that find us in different locations. So we got to be open, and we got to listen to, or listen to the patient, but also the practitioners that work in each location, what they want to do, what they're seeing the most, where do we refocus or pivot. That's important. And as we're hiring more surgeons now, it's going to change throughout the last end of the year 2022. If they join, then again, that might shift a little bit on the patients that come in and the type of patients that come in. So it's interesting. Both cities are very different. Like in Calgary, it's funny, we have like lots of snowbirds. So like we were all of a sudden a little bit busier in the summer. So it really depends on the practitioner and what they do. So we try to be very open on where we want to focus and lots of communication. But yes, we do travel and we try to spend a lot of time as a group together. Team building is really important for us.
All right. That's good. Yeah. And again, that really does help paint the picture for what success can look like, but what effort goes into that. Because again, I just know a lot of my listeners are small, medium-sized businesses, and they are trying to navigate exactly what you're talking about. Multiple location, multiple people, lots of input. So I appreciate that for sure. Yeah. So when we're talking about, again, you said you're changing weekly. People change all the time, businesses change all the time. So when we're talking about the best ways to communicate, is there any, I guess, advice that I wouldn't ask maybe, well, actually, I'll ask it this way. Is there advice that that you wish you would have learned right out the gate that took you a couple bumps to get to, that's working now, that you could share with our listeners? Like oh, I wish I knew that 2 years ago. When we're talking communication, I love how you say over communicate. But again, industries are changing all the time. People's habits change all the time. So is there any of those little pointers that you wish that you knew back when you first started in this space that you could share with our listeners?
Yeah, I think, I feel like I'm constantly learning about this, and it's definitely not easy, even with COVID. It kind of changed our perspective on how we communicate together. For sure, I was traveling way more before and spending one-on-one time with the people, in Calgary, for example. But I think now it's really understanding and planning together. Like I'm kind of going back there to making those decisions with the people that are running it, right? I wish that I did that a bit more, because here's the thing. It's like, I'm here in Edmonton and I'm working with the team in Edmonton. We might have something that's really good here. And I think that if you push it in another location and you think it's going to be the exact same thing, well, it's not. It won't. And yes, I definitely I wish somebody would told me this, because it's not like you're taking one and it's a cookie cutter. We're not a franchise or anything yet, anyways. But they're different people, they're different patients, different clients, and even just a different space, different practitioners. So it's not the same. And sometimes we have to stop trying to do the exact same thing, the exact same method, and surrounding yourself with leaders. I'm not the only leader here. There's many leaders here, and they have a say and they want to do it one way. And I think that, again, like going back to trust and letting them kind of run things and try things. And I think the other thing too is that we think things change weekly, but we're not afraid, right? So we try it. And if it doesn't work, like, trust me, there's things that failed, and we go back to the drawing board. And I think we're not afraid of that. And as we grow bigger, it's more challenging, where we cannot try just everything and anything. So, okay, then we try to make a plan together, maybe a template business plan, come and talk to the team about it. Let's make a plan. Who wants to put some energy into this? Who has the time? Who doesn't? Does it make sense right now? And then go from there. But lots of planning. I like to plan personally. I like to plan a lot and then like push action. But there's some go-getters here. So they want to move.
Good. No, that's really powerful, again, because being in the space that we're in, things are always changing. And you're right. It's not just because it's working here doesn't mean it's going to work even across the street, let alone a different city. So that's really sound advice for sure. And again, keeping people involved. I appreciate that. So before we do end, though, I do have what I call my staple question. And I'm always interested. Through our conversation, I always try and, when I'm getting to this point of the conversation, try and really picture the answer to see if I can read people correctly. Because again, I really admire your humility. I think that's really important, especially at a fast-paced growth. You're dealing with athletes for one. You're dealing with high performer professionals. Like, you're dealing with some really phenomenal people, and the fact that you can lead with a humble mindset while remaining confident, I think is really powerful. So when you're thinking about the legacy that you're having on your team, and not obviously you're still here, so it's the day-to-day interactions. When you're thinking of, okay, I'm going to go talk to so and so, we're going to talk about this, we're going to try and solve this problem, I'm going to leave, whatever. How are you navigating that preparation? Do you really think about, okay, I need to have this type of tone and this type of energy and this much preparation going into this meeting so that way I can create that impact? Or do you naturally, just when you're working with your team, know that you're creating an impact with people? Because I see through our conversation, I really see the ripple effect. I see how your team is confident in the clients so they can provide an incredible service. I see the clients receiving the incredible service and coming back and remaining part of the community. But that takes really sound leadership. So yeah, how can you, I guess that's a really long question, I know, but when you're thinking about the legacy and the impact you're having on your team, and even with clients, are you pre-thinking about those things, or are you just, processing the conversation as you go?
Well, I feel like right now I'm really working with them. So like we both, ask ourselves the question. I think they know my vision. Like, right now, again, we're creating this completely different healthcare system. It's big, right? Like it's a big thing. And it's small right now. We're a small team. It's not a big team, but it's a big vision. And you go to a store, you choose the shirt you want to choose. You choose which color you want it. You choose which brand you want it. You choose which material you want it. But I don't get how we cannot do this with healthcare yet. Okay, we're getting there. But I think my team know that, and they're alongside with that. And sometimes there's some rules we need to follow. I'm not really a rule follower, so they know that I can really push the boundary. And I think they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. In our professional world, this is what we got to do. And sometimes I really push that, like, really, do you really have to follow this rule? So so I need them because they keep me in line. And I think that, they probably need me in a way because I push them, and that without the two forces, I don't think we would be here. But so I think that hopefully whatever leader or whatever, if they're leading something, or even in our healthcare system, if there are other people doing that, I hope that we can, be the people that started this thinking.
Yeah, huge. That was a much better answer than how I phrased the question. I was like, I didn't do that very good, but that was solid. And I love that, where it's like, okay, well, this is my flag on my big moon. Thank you very much. So this is really exciting. I'm really happy for you, and I'm happy for the people that you're serving. So from your team, obviously, to your community, so not just patient, client, everybody, I think that's really powerful. And again, I just really admire when you can lead with such humility. I think it's just so needed. Far too often I see various leaders in forums where I'm like, yeah, okay, but I really respect you. And I'm really grateful that you could hop on the podcast. So as we end, can you give just a quick reminder where our listeners can go if they want to learn more about Acumen Clinic?
For sure. The website is great. So acumenclinic.com. There's so much information on there. You can browse for like a few hours for sure. All our practitioners there put blogs on it. All our description is on there as well. And then, you can leave your name and number, even on the website. We'll call you back. You can call us. That's 587-599-5345 is our number. Call, give us a ring, chat with one of our admin here. But really, if you want to chat with any practitioner, just ask for it and we'll get back to you.
Powerful. Awesome. So again, links are in the show notes. And Francesca, thank you so much again for taking the time. As I said up front, I wasn't lying. You really do serve with like an extreme level of passion, which I think is super awesome. And it's just needed, especially when you're helping other people help people get better and just live better lives. So I think that's really powerful. And I'm just super grateful for your time today. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you so much, Josh. That was great.
Good. Awesome. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your day and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you.
Francesca, honestly, thank you so much for taking the time, joining me on the Truck Focus podcast, and honestly, for the impact that you and your team are having on so many people. So I really admire just how you lead with humility and how you're constantly involved in your team in conversation to see how they're doing as people, but also to learn how your organization can continue to provide an incredible value to your own community. So a huge takeaway from our interview was when you were talking about the need to over communicate and the benefits of keeping everyone involved. I really admire that. And I believe that as we just continue to navigate in this space through the Truck Focus community, that's something that can help a lot of people. So thank you for that. So to our own community, again, I just really encourage you to learn more about Acumen Clinic by visiting their website or on Instagram, as I've included the links directly in the show notes. So before we end today, I did want to say thank you. Thank you again if this is the first time that you've ever joined us on the Truck Focus podcast, checking out our community, taking the time to listen to our great conversation today, but also to our dedicated community. I just appreciate the fact that you've taken the time again to listen, but more so that you're applying the knowledge and the advice shared in each episode to really help improve our industry through creating a pivotal impact in your day-to-day interactions. So at the beginning of our interview, I did challenge you to say, hey, if something is said in this interview, let me know what's impacting you. So now's the challenge, now's the time. So if something that Francesca shared was like, hey, I could really change how I'm communicating with my team, or I'm going to actually start communicating with my team, let me know. So let me know by sharing out this episode to your network and putting it in the post. Let me know by sending me a direct contact or a direct message. My contact details are in the show notes. But again, thank you so much. And again, Francesca, I just really appreciate the fact that you took the time to hop on. And again, as always, let's create a pivotal impact.